Rebel Yell podcast on the Trib Live High School Sports Network. And now that we're into the postseason, our little soiree here is presented by Edgar Snyder and Associates Go Local. Go with Edgar, helping injured people since 1982, edgarsnyder.com. They are the proud lead sponsor for our WPIAL basketball playoff coverage. Playoffs underway. Brackets came out this past Monday. Into the first round after some boys preliminary round games. First round action Friday. First round will continue on Monday and Tuesday, and then we get into the quarterfinals. And we are here to salute our WPIAL Basketball Team of the Week, and it is the Fox Chapel Foxes girls basketball team, and their coach Marty Matvey is kind enough to join us. Former South Park coach, now doing now it's what, 6th year at Fox Chapel, Marty?
This is our 7th year now.
7th year, wow.
Time flies, Don.
Yeah, kudos. Back-to-back appearances into the postseason. A year ago, you guys make the playoffs and get the tall task of facing the eventual champions, Peters Township, in the first round. So it was a short, not-so-sweet trip to the postseason. We were just talking a little before we got going here about the off season and the many, many questions surrounding your program heading into this 25-26 campaign. You knew you had some young players. You knew there was probably some talent amongst those young players, yet still this has gone a lot better than probably anticipated.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like you said it, Don, we knew we had some talent. We have a really good JV program here that tries to develop kids so that they can slide, up into the next varsity opportunity when it presents themselves. But at the end of the day, we were thinking, we had made a nice run last year. We were competitive with Peters, but we were missing 2 seniors that score about 35 points per game that had been starters for, almost 4 years. So, to fill their shoes was a hard task, but we did it collectively as a group, and we had some JV kids that started full-time JV last year who put in a lot of work in the off season, and they gelled with our senior point guard, Lila Javelin. And, there's about 8 to 10 kids that step up and contribute every night. And the best thing about it, even last night, one of the most compliments we get is that everybody on the team does their part.
Yeah.
And, Lila, of course, is the engine that makes us go, but the supporting cast of hers is also capable of taking on the load so that Lila doesn't feel like she has to do it by herself. And, to be here talking to you, for the girls to be the team of the week, to have the run we've had at the end of the season is definitely a surprise, but a pleasant one. And I wouldn't put it past this group with how coachable they are.
Strong finish. We'll talk about that, and leading into the playoffs and then continuing in the postseason with a big first-round victory. We'll also chat about that. I've talked to coaches, and, you mentioned how, everyone has their role, and everyone is excelling right now at their role. If you have an established team, you can sort of sit down and lay out those parameters in September, October, before practices and the games actually begin. But, with your team in a bit of a state of flux coming into this season, were these roles that you and your staff were trying to figure out even as the season had started?
Yeah, absolutely. And not to always try to get ahead, but even last year, towards the end of the year, January, February, traditionally what I try to do with my staff is talk about, okay, what's next? Who's next? Who's going to fill here? How are we developing them so they feel comfortable in the role so that they can execute? And then what we really like to do is in May, June, we host a summer league. I think we've been doing it 5 years in a row now, where you have about 15 teams for varsity and then 4 or 5 for JV. And then we start plugging those kids into those roles to see how they do in the summer. And then come fall, we also host a fall league. So between our fall and summer league, it gives us a lot of time to tinker and see who can do exactly what, who's comfortable where, and who's excelling in those roles. So that allows us to at least get an idea of what we're going to look like. But fall and summer league competition is different. When the lights come on in December And
Yeah.
now in February, you have to see how your team matures. And I'll say that from May, when the journey started, to now, there's been a lot of maturing and a lot quicker than we all had expected.
Yeah, young players meshing nicely with the couple of seniors that you do have and have leaned on, and it's really come together. Wasn't the case early on. Not major struggles, but you guys were around the holidays, 500 basketball team. And that's when I think a lot of coaches and their staffs sort of take stock. Okay, we're now a month into the season. We're still early days of section play, but you get a pretty good grasp of what you have around the holidays. Were there tweaks? Were there changes around the holidays? Because once that calendar turned to 2026, you guys have been a different basketball team.
No, you're absolutely right. And there was a lot of concern early on. We had some losses that were head scratching. Let's put it that way. And my staff and even some team like, oh my gosh, like how are we gonna do this? But we just had to survive really and continue to use those experiences to learn from them. So the Freeport loss was a tough one for us. They had a great game plan against Lila, and that opened up our eyes as to what we might see against her and what we would look like if people didn't step up. So that taught us a lot. And then from there, we had a tough schedule against, a good Hempfield school in 6A who, has a lot more size.
Right,
We're a very small team. We were able to compete with them. And the final score didn't show, what we wanted, but it was much better than last year. And, we played a tough Alderdice team. We were right there with them in the third quarter until Bailey White got cooking. And then that Avonworth game at the PBG Paints, I think that's when we started seeing, the fruits of people getting comfortable with each other. So, I mentioned Lila, but Emily McKee, who's an All-American soccer player, she kind of starts getting into basketball shape towards the end of holiday season. And once she starts getting into it, man, I've been calling her the microwave McKee because she's just quick. And she's a great kid, and the best thing I can say about her, she's one of the most humble kids I've ever coached. And to have an All-American like that, in a different sport, still play for, a secondary sport is very rare. And then you have the twins, Nina and Kaya Kulikowski, who were full-time JV starters last year. Kaya had an ankle injury at the beginning of the year. So around the end of 2025, she started getting healthy. And her and Nina, they're just so athletic. And they do have that, not to be corny, but twin connection. And once every game, they have some type of miraculous play between each other that you're like, wow, there it is. And then Bailey Sacco was a big player for us last year. She broke her leg in May. She came back, as soon as she could, and she's fought through a lot of pain and unfortunately has had another ankle injury. So we've been trying to manage Bailey's minutes, but she's a good lefty guard for us. And you can see that now that she's a sophomore, she's starting to see the floor a little bit better, and we can put the ball in her hands now. Altogether, a lot of growth. And then by our two forwards, who are mostly guard size, but Bella Geller, who's a freshman, and then Abby Goodman, they've been tasked with covering the other team's biggest players. And you could tell at the end of 2025 into 2026, they knew that, it was winning time. And I think that after the Avonworth and and even playing Neshannock, who's a really well-coached and good team, seeing that we hung with them, I know they're single A, but between you and I, who cares? I mean, Luann and what she's got.
Oh, she's amazing.
Yeah. And I remember them from my days at South Park. So, I mean, I told the girls, this is going to be a good test for us. And luckily, they took it, to heart. And come 2026, they've been cooking.
You said when you were talking about Emily, you said something interesting that I don't know that a lot of us think about. We think about it in terms of boys basketball with football players,
right?
That it takes a while when you're a star in one sport to get into, basketball shape in the wintertime. And I'm glad you brought that up with Emily and how her game has progressed. And the fact that when you're All-American, you're talking about a lot of commitment to that sport. Right. And for her to play and excel in the sport of basketball is big time kudos.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I thank her parents for allowing it. Emily always has told me, I just want to play. And then she also will say to me, like, Coach, just play me the minutes I deserve. Because she does miss due to her demanding, schedule.
Sure.
But I mean, the way I look at it, and I always tell the parents, players this is high school. You do this once. You don't get to do it again. You should play multiple sports. I will be
Right.
flexible. Obviously, we have some rules. But, if she misses a practice, hey, she doesn't start the next game. But when she gets in, she heats up real quick.
Marty Matvey, head coach of Fox Chapel, our WPIAL team, basketball team of the week, coming off a first-round victory, a hard-fought victory over Latrobe. We'll talk about your leading scorer in that game, your leading scorer, period, Lila Jablin, the senior leader of this team. I'm glad that you gave a lot of other players their deserved props, but Lila is something special, isn't she?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I made sure, even starting last year to now, to make sure I enjoy the time with her. She's an extension of me out there. Plays with a lot of fire. She's tough as nails. And, ironically, her and I kind of grew up in the same area before she, moved into the district her 8th grade year. And, we're both from like the Woodland Hills area. So that's where I grew up. I went to Central Catholic. And Lila, coming here and giving her that role of having someone that can be an extension of me out there has been huge. And the best thing about it is I've been able to coach her authentically. The way that I coach kids when I was with Coach McConnell at Duquesne and
Sure.
Chapman and Robert Morris, and that's really rare these days. I could just cut to the chase with her. And she doesn't always like it, but she responds to it. And she takes that weight on her shoulders to be accountable. And that's a really impressive trait for a young woman like that. But her parents support me. Her dad is our middle school coach, and he's on our high school staff. And I mean, what a great example that Lila has been for these
Yep.
young.
7 straight wins now, heading into the quarterfinals. 6 in a row to end the regular season. Final week, you play a desperate Shaler team. You beat the Titans for your 5th straight win, and then the 6th straight win was an impressive one, knocking off the section champs. Unfortunately, you weren't in line to try to get a share of the section title. You were 2 games behind the Mustangs. But how big was that convincing victory over the Mustangs to propel you guys into the postseason?
Oh, it was huge. It was huge, John. And when we played Plum at 3rd place, I knew that game was either going to show us how far we have come or how far we need to go, right? Especially with a young group like this playing their first, this is the real big game. We won the ones to get to that opportunity to play for first. And we came out in that first quarter. We played our worst first quarter of basketball. And it wasn't the effort at all. The ball wasn't going in. We were executing plays. We couldn't hit. But then in the final 3 quarters, we did a nice job. So I know that the girls were ready to get back after, especially when we had a disappointing loss, a really tough Penn Hills team on the road. And there's no excuse. We had our opportunity and our chance to be the section champs. So we wanted to prove to ourselves that, hey, we might have come up a game short, but we felt like we were still the best team in the section. So we wanted to make a statement when they came to our place. And the girls certainly stepped up and did that. And Plum, with Riley and Tamia West, certainly a talented team and well built, but we thought that we were peaking at the right time and we thought that we could take it to them.
You guys in a full 16-team playoff field in girls 5A get the number 7 seed in the tournament. Is that pretty much what you and maybe others on your staff thought you would get in that general area?
We were thinking like anything between 7 and 10, but we knew that if we beat Plum in convincing fashion, especially based off of what they just did to Penn Trafford, and we thought that we might have a chance to get like a 7 or an 8, and that if we lost to them, that it could have been 9, 10, or 11. So we know what our section has and hasn't done, so we wanted to control we can control. So that's why we wanted to make a statement win against Plum to show that, hey, we've been cooking at the right time and we deserve a higher seed.
Committee hears you, gives you the reward of after knocking off Plum convincingly of a 7th seed, and that equates into a home first-round playoff game. You draw the Latrobe Wildcats. You were talking about the one Plum game in which you guys got off to a rough start. Wasn't smooth sailing out of the gates in the first round. Nerves, bright spotlight. You guys find yourself down 10-5 after one quarter against the Wildcats. What was it?
Well, I would say that Latrobe, I mean, we turned them over, but every time we did it, they were scoring the ball. In that first quarter, they shot 61%.
No.
Maggie Myers was cooking.
She's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, she's an incredible player. The quietest 31 points I've ever but I mean, an incredible kid, and I mean that in a respectful way. She just goes and does her business. And for us, you know, I think part of it, like you said, Don, it was the nerves. I also think the other part of it was we had Kaya Kulikowski twist her ankle early. Ina got some foul trouble, so there was a lot of drama going on about, how are we going to piece this together and make it through some of these challenges we're facing? And I think that once we did that, we made that little run towards the end of the second quarter. We got the lead going in halftime. Lila said it perfect. That was probably our worst punch that we threw, and they threw probably their best. So let's go out there and throw our best for 2 more quarters. And she was absolutely right. And I think the girls gutted it out from there on.
Yeah, the problem solved after 5 points in the opening quarter, 19 in the second, 19 in the fourth, 17 in the third. You guys had the 2-point lead at the half and then build on it, or really build on it. You played pretty much even basketball with Latrobe. Come out on top, 60-58 in a barn burner.
Absolutely, yeah. And you can start seeing everyone do their part, like I mentioned earlier. Emily McKee, she got in the foul trouble, but I put her back in immediately at the end of the third quarter. She hits a bucket. Nina Kulikowski, who was in foul trouble, hit 2 big threes and a layup. Kaya comes back in, gets a big staves the ball, gets it to Lila. She does her thing. Ella Shevchuk, a couple big rebounds. And then Bella Geller, the freshman, who was one of our 8th grade ball handlers, but now is playing post for us. 2 big threes. And, for a freshman, I coach her similar to the way I coach Lila. She's a coachable kid. And the best thing is she was quoted in the trip and said, my coach trusts me to take those shots. And there's nothing more true. I trust all these kids to take the shots open. And I want them to feel that, because our big thing is make the next great play. And how can you do that without, trusting yourself, right?
Good balance. And that's what you're going to see a lot of from the teams that keep advancing here in the February frenzy and then later into the March state playoffs is that balance offensively. Yes, you'd like to have, like in the case of Latrobe, Maggie goes out, scores 31 of their 58 points. That's great. But I think when push comes to shove, because of various things that can happen in a game, to have that balance in the score sheet is huge. You got it. Lila leads the way. She big game, 24 points. Emily chips in 14, Bella and Nina with 10. And again, it's that secondary scoring that is so big and important this time of year.
Oh, absolutely. And we need it, right? In May, we talked about we can't just expect Lila to be the superhero.
Right.
But we also talked, there's some games where, we call it a Lila game. She's going to have a Lila game. And in this one, even more important is I think she picks up her 4th foul with 4.5 minutes left in the 4th. And Lila and I have been through this a lot before, and I have a lot of trust in her. And majority of the time, she succeeds in keeping herself safe, staying in the game. And she did just that. And so she had her Lila game, but her teammates did enough that she didn't have to try to do too much. And that's just as important. And it's important for those young kids, to see the ball go in the hoop because, at some point we're going to have to reinvent this next chapter of this team. And for them to see it happen now, the ball have that success now is going to be huge for them going forward, especially even in the next playoff game. We're playing an incredibly talented team.
You guys had this program under you, had success in 2021, then a couple lean years. For this program to make the playoffs a year ago, get a taste of postseason action, then come back even younger this year, have the success you have with the second place finish, and now a playoff victory under your belt, which in 5A girls basketball also equates into a qualifying for a PIAA state playoff berth. So congratulations on that. But that's having been there for a couple of rough seasons, it's got to make you and your staff feel pretty darn good.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And like you and I were talking, my younger days at South Park, I just thought it was normal to make playoffs, win a section title, make states.
Yeah.
Then come into Fox Chapel, back-to-back playoff seasons, played pretty well, had some success, and then a 3-year drought, and that makes you think like, man, am I ever going to get back? And during those 3 years, there was 2 seasons where we were 1 game short. But now what we've been able to do is, ever since COVID, we've gone beyond it, is build the program up and build this Fox Chapel girls basketball community. And we've been able to do that with the support of the school district and the support of our coaches. So like last night, we had like over 50 of our youth girls supporting. We even had some of the boys from the youth program there supporting. And it's so much more now of a community where, they want to be a part of this experience.
Right.
And they want to continue the traditions of winning. And we need that if we're going to be competitive. I mean, I know that, next year we're going up to 6A. We're like 10 girls over the limit. We're going to be the smallest 6A school by like 300 girls. And that's hard. So how do we do that? It's from having a program from kindergarten through, really the alumni. And when those high school kids and those young kids see the alumni come back, I think that all gives us an advantage that this isn't something that, we're just going to give up when it gets tough. I'm here to see this through, and that's what I committed to Mike O'Brien in the district when he hired me 7 years ago.
Yeah, memo to the 6A folks that this is a very young and talented Fox Chapel team that's coming up to your classification a year from now. But that's a year from now. Let's talk about the now. Wednesday, WPIAL quarterfinals at Mount Lebanon. You come back to the South Hills to take on the Thomas Jefferson Jaguars. You mentioned very talented team. In fact, our WPIAL girls basketball player of the week this week is Maggie Spell of TJ. They take care of business against Penn Hills. They have had a remarkable season. Probably not a lot more people talking about them because of the dominance on the other side of the bracket with top seed South Fayette. But what early moments of preparation, what about the Jags?
Yeah, so we know a lot about Maggie Spell. I mean, she used to be right down the road and Eastside. So, what I know about Maggie is we've had success bottling up for like 3 quarters, but there's always that one where she transition, hits a 3. And I think she's matured her game even more so in the past 2 years. I mean, last year watching them compete against Peters, they were right there every single time.
Right.
So, obviously it starts with Maggie, but they have a really balanced team with Riley McCabe, their post player, and then the D'Angelo kid. I think there's a younger sister who's playing for them. And they, they're all about 5'9", 5'11", and then they got a post player, and they're cooking at the right time, and they're good in transition. So for us, it's going to be, how can we slow them down? How can we make them a little bit uncomfortable and get some of that mental real estate early so that hopefully we can impose our will? That's something that we're typically pretty good at. But, like I told the ladies the other night, the most urgent team's going to win. And that's going to be so true come Wednesday. We got to come out and fight early and often, not to try to come back.
Urgency, correct. Yes, you're right. But at the same time, you don't want to come out, wound too tight that you're down double digits before the first quarter even ends. I mean, they got to realize we're playing with house money here, so we have nothing to lose. Let's go to it.
Right, and that's what when we started this run in 2026, we kept talking about there's no pressure. I mean, people didn't expect us to do these things, and especially against TJ. I mean, like last night, I felt more pressure for that game because, this game that some people expect you to win, right? Because of your team. TJ, there's no pressure here. Like you said, we are playing with house money. Doesn't mean that we're not going to go after it.
Right.
My first year at South Park, we were a 15 seed. I told the girls this, we played a 2 seed Mars when Tony Howard was at Mars, and we beat them, and that experience, sticks with me. And even one of my last years at South Park, we upset Trinity when they had Mary Dunn and Sierra Koshman. So things can happen, people need to elevate their game, yes, and you need to execute, but it's happened twice. So I told them, why not a third time?
Good stuff. We'll find out Wednesday. But win or lose, the safety net is there now that all these teams in the 5A girls quarterfinals know that their season will continue first in the consolation and then eventually in the PIAA playoffs. Marty, good stuff. We appreciate your time. Congratulations on your success. It's a lot of excitement, I'm sure, at Fox Chapel with, again, you got the stud leader and a lot of up and coming future stars. Good mix, great success, on a roll, very dangerous team. Congrats and best of luck.
Thank you, Don. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for recognizing the girls. They deserve it. I appreciate all you do for the high school sports around here, man. It's good talking to you.
Marty, appreciate it. I appreciate the kind words. Thank you. Marty Matvey, the head coach of the Fox Chapel Foxes girls basketball team, our WPIAL Team of the Week. We thank Marty for joining us. We thank our producer, Chris Lackner, and we thank you for joining us as we continue in the WPIAL playoffs here on the Trib Live High School Sports Network.